Hey everyone, welcome back to Enterprise IT, and we're up to episode 8.
And in this episode, I've got my buddy Pravesh back with me again. Hey Ninja, how you going, mate?
Hi, Richard. How are you, buddy?
Good. I thought we'd talk about the future of technology and what futures we think might be happening and maybe some different verticals, some different industries and how those futures might look in those industries. What do you reckon?
Spot on, man. Spot on. Look, the as we know, because of this pandemic, it has kind of accelerated the growth and the digital uptake from the companies out there. Every little company, every big company that was, dipping their toes in the like remote working or digitization before, has suddenly seen a big uptake, and they had to actually, pivot themselves and adopt this new technology. So, what this future will bring like, and that's what we're going to talk about
That's it.
today.
Yeah. So, I think we've talked about a lot, and our industry has talked a lot about, if businesses aren't digital, then they're not going to survive. And I
Yep.
think we've probably seen that, like you said, brought about by what's going on in the world at the moment. And those businesses that didn't have a digital slant or hadn't started to make themselves digital are struggling.
Yep.
And those that already had a strategy or were already going down that path
Yep.
probably, I think in some cases, there's probably some businesses out there that have accelerated really hard off
Yep.
the back of what's going on in the world right now today.
So yeah, definitely. Look, I'm one of those people who would like to see a silver lining in every cloud, or half glass full kind of.
Yeah.
So, from my opinion, this pandemic, so to speak, even though it has done a bad thing across the world, the one good thing I can see is getting all these companies to accelerate their growth. And one of those industries, or actually two of the favorite industries that I have worked in, and I can definitely vouch for that I've seen the change happening, are telcos and banking, the financial services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I don't think too many people out there would be really disappointed to hear that maybe telcos
Yep.
and banking
Yes.
are going to get better. Like that's a dream for a lot of people.
Spot on, mate.
I'm
Spot
not
on.
trying to be too harsh on our customers out there, but I think if you spoke to Joe Average on the street, not
Yep.
many of them would have too many good things to say about probably either of those industries, to be brutally
Look,
honest.
Look, again, trying to see the silver lining, and trying to see the half glass full
Yeah, mate.
approach. You cannot always blame the providers for that kind of thing. For example, like pick up the example of telcos. Yes, the technology to enable from 3G to 4G and 4G to now 5G, that always requires a lot of investment. It's a huge rollout, especially a country like Australia where, the landmass is so huge. Imagine,
Yeah, massive.
rolling out all that stuff across how many million kilometers we have? Across all that.
Yeah.
So you're bound to have, slowly ramping things up and all that kind of stuff. That would happen. The good thing is now, and then look, the other old saying in the telco industry, and in most of the technology is, ain't broken, don't fix it. So from
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so from telco's point of view, they had a decade or a technology that was used for decades. From your physical cables to your radio equipments and all that. Those technologies were proven. They were working. They had no reason to change from it.
And really well known, right? They had a lot of institutional intellectual property around how to
Exactly.
run and manage those environments.
Yep. Yep. And that's why they were using it till now. But what's happening because of this fast pace that has been brought about in this world, and we can thank companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, who have actually kind of forced it upon the industry as well to accelerate that growth, and the requirement for these companies, these telco providers, to pivot quickly and provide a solution as quickly as possible. We cannot rely on years and years of rollout. So what we're
Yeah.
seeing in the telco industry now is, adoption of VNFs, of virtual network functions. So what used to
yeah.
be, your DNS, servers, your firewalls, your switching engines, all that kind of stuff, which used to be physical equipments on top of the racks and racks, whole data center full of them. You'll have an exchange in every corner of your suburb. Those kind of things will slowly not won't happen overnight, but over the next decade or so, well, you'll slowly start seeing them disappearing, and they will be replaced by things like virtualization. Everything would be virtual, so you'll have your x86 hardware, commodity hardware, running all those functions on top of your things like KVMs or ESXi or even Hyper-V, whatever flavor you are using, on all of them. And the advantage sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, just to elaborate on that, so we're talking about where previously you would have, like you said, someone might have a firewall, and that would have been a physical device, and then they'd have a router, another physical device. They might have even been a relatively sort of advanced customer or user of networking, so they might have another WAN optimization device, and chances are that might have been physical as well. So now you're talking about all of that stuff just collapsing down, all run as a virtual appliances or virtual machines on a single physical device.
I'll give you a very good example in this case. So I would see across, like, you have a small customer out there who's running on a 10 meg link to their favorite telco. So the telco they will sign up to the service, and the telco will physically ship a box to them. If it's a little bit too complicated, they even ship a technician coming in and install those devices in the premises. So they're happy with the 10 meg connection. But all of a sudden, the business sees a big growth, and now instead of that 10 meg, they need a 50 or 100 meg connection. What would happen? Well, they'll get on the phone. This is the old days. They'll get on the phone, call the call center, and they say, you will change from $100 plan to a $500 plan. And by the way, I've put your new equipment in the mail because your old equipment does not support 100 meg. And by the way, we'll have another technician coming in who is not available for another 4 weeks because he's too busy rolling out, some other stuff. What do you do? As a small business or a medium-sized business, can you stand still until a telco comes and do that work? And telcos understand that the customers are not happy, so they're trying to do their bit to get them turned around quickly. So the new way of doing things would be having a smart edge device, and think of it like a virtualization box, a very mini PC or a small form factor server. So what telcos would have is a standard software, whatever the choice they have, running on it, and on the flick of switch, they can convert. Now the call center guy can say, 10 meg. All right, let me convert you from a $100 plan to a $500 plan. And by the way, once you sign that up, that will flick the switch, and now you're getting 100 meg. Just restart the device. Boom. No technician coming in. And by the way, because now you have a bigger workspace, you're a bigger workforce, would you like a firewall service too? Oh yeah, okay, let me start that service. To check the box, and now all of a sudden there's another virtual network function flicked up, and now that device also serves your firewall service, reverse proxy, things like that.
So it just changes everything. And I guess it's doing what we're starting to see across the industry, right? It's about driving those efficiencies so that, like you said, you're not waiting for a man in a van to pop out there and make a physical change. Now it's, and look, I've got to say I'm actually really lucky where I'm sat right here now in Melbourne, and that, I'm not an NBN customer. We're with a different provider. And that's actually the exact experience that I've had with them. I need this, I need that. I need a fixed IP address. So I even have a fixed public IP address, and they just turned it on. It's like, man, this is magic. I love it.
Every time I have this conversation with you, I literally go out and check if my house is eligible for your kind of service.
I know. We're really lucky that we have them as a provider. It's great.
No, it's
so I was going to say, so as well as that, we've talked about there, having these devices, right? They get virtualized. So what other new features and new cool stuff do you think telcos are going to be able to start to provide, or that maybe not telcos, maybe that people are going to be able to start using for those kind of connections.
Yeah. So look, we always see people talking about like your 5G and all that stuff, but I think the real innovation would happen in the enterprise space for telcos. A lot of enterprises are still relying on your MPLS connections, and
Yes.
things like that. That would come with the evolution of things like SD-WAN. Those kind of things would be really revolution. What's the right word?
Revolutionised.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
knew what
right
you're
word.
trying to say there, mate. Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. Okay, so yeah, SD-WAN is the obvious one, right? That I should have thought about that already. And look, again, obviously we both work for Dell, so we've seen all the Velo Cloud demonstrations and stuff. But I have to say, I was blown away by it. Mildly disappointed that we're not, eligible to get Velo Cloud SD-WAN devices in all of our homes. Because one of the things that really blew me away with that, when it came to that WAN optimization, was just how clever it was and how they'd worked out effectively that we've got plenty of bandwidth, but there's still a bit of iffiness around delivery and some of the cool things to do in the background to just make those connections more stable. Clever stuff. Really awesome. I see what you mean.
That's the power of software, because you do not need to physically change anything. You can just push out the new code, and now all of a sudden the code is more optimized. The connection is more stable. All just a matter of flicking a switch, like even a GitHub rollout or whatever that is happen to be.
Yep, I know exactly what you mean, because even the I'm just going to keep referring back to that Velo Cloud thing, just because it's something I've seen, I guess. But even the simple rollout, like you were saying, or what we were talking about earlier, where, a man in a van turns up.
Yep.
That whole Velo Cloud SD-WAN thing, man, that was so simple that you'd just be, anyone could do that and get that up and going and have that device configured and then providing an optimized WAN solution. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, good point, mate.
Yeah. Well, but telcos are not the only ones seeing these kind of, generational shifts. The banking industry is the next one, I would say, is at least the one that I'm familiar with. They are, if you like your bank, give them about another year or two, and you will really start loving them. From the things that I'm seeing coming in, mate.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them are already in place. So I'll give you an example. Going back a few years, so if you're buying a property, at least in Australia and most of the places around the world, you will see something like a stamp duty that needs to be paid to the government. So stamp duty, historical, that literally means the government said, all right, give us, a tax of some kind because you're buying a house, cough out some money. So what people would do is literally buy postage stamps. So they were special printed, stamps. They were stuck onto a piece of paper and of certain value. So say, like the government says, $1,000 stamp duty, you'll buy stamps of $1,000, and that's how the government was getting their money.
Right.
10, 20 years down the track, they go, or maybe 10 years ago, what they did is, look, we're not having these stamps anymore.
We're not doing the stamps anymore, but we still want the money.
You still want the money, and by the way, we're putting the money up. So you literally are still paying stamp duty without any stamps. So, but still the process of you're settling the house would be you as a banking institution so you're moving from one bank to the other. You literally would have a person going into state revenue office or the equivalent within your state. They will schedule the thing. They will, swap the packets around. They will go to a branch, and then the whole folder will have Title A to Title B instead of Bank A to Bank B, literally stamping that thing, swapping off the physical piece of envelopes together. And that's how it used to happen. About 2 years back, they brought in a system, and this was a credit to the APRA or the RB, the regulators within the financial industry. They pushed for it where the banks actually got together and brought up a system. Think of it as like SharePoint or a file server on steroids. When it started, when I first saw it, that's how it used to look like. It's pretty advanced and evolved now, but literally what they're doing now is electronically they are having all the titles, all the files, all that into one share, and then the bank
Yep.
B will have it in their share, and literally at a scheduled time, they'll swap over the files, and settlement done.
Right.
So no more
So
going to a branch.
it's electronic. effectively.
Exactly, all electronic.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing things. The other way is if you are swapping, moving your credit card, your financial life from one bank to the other. At the moment, your bank holds all your information. If you're going from bank A to bank B, you're starting that process again.
Yes.
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 Imagine. Oh, and
Yeah,
that's
done it.
it is a painful thing because you still
yeah.
you will be filling out things electronically instead of piece of paper, but still a lot of information. What's your driver's license number? What's your passport number? 100 points of ID, all that stuff. Well, you already provided that to Bank A. Why can't Bank B use it? No. They're two separate systems. We can't talk to each other. Forget about between two banks. You have you're using your mobile phone banking app. That's a relatively new thing for the banks to use. When they first started using signed you up as a customer, they might be doing it on a mainframe system, the core banking platform. The core banking doesn't talk to the app system. So what they do is 15-minute, hourly, nightly batch that does all that transfer.
Batch updates.
And that's why when you transfer your money from one account to the other, within bank, it takes about 5 minutes. If it's across someone else, it'll take a few hours to a few days. That's why.
Yeah.
So what governments are now pushing for is something called open banking. So think of it as an API-based interface. And a lot of banks have already started doing it. You will probably be reading this within the newspapers, where they're providing API access. And if you are a certified party or a licensee who is authorized to access that kind of information, you can just simply, based on customers' approval, you can just go ahead and request that information. And that also means a customer is signing up for a car loan. You go to your car dealership and ask for a car loan. How does the car dealership know that the document, the physical piece of payslip that you're providing is valid? It's a real one. So they can literally go and marry up with your bank, just run an API call behind the scene and go, you can see
and see.
Yeah, see this much money is coming in every week. Yep, and he's spending this much. Oh yeah, looks he's good. Here's your keys. Here's your car. Safe driving.
Congratulations. Yeah, I've read an article on that actually. Now, when you talk about that, bank as an API.
Yep.
And it was exactly that. It was about those banks updating their processes and being, I guess, catching up with the curve. Really, I was about to say far enough ahead of the curve that they can actually start exposing their processes as APIs.
Yep.
So that other authorized and authenticated entities can then actually gain access.
The other big advantage that I can see, and I'm pretty sure that someone out there is already doing this, is you can actually use that data and present it in a better format. So instead of you manually putting in your expenses into an app and produce a graph out of it.
Oh, dude, man.
How often do we forget it? Yeah, how often do we forget doing that?
To do expenses.
Yeah. So imagine that someone using your real expenditure data and presenting that in a meaningful format that, hey, Richard, you're spending too much on coffees this week.
Hey, hang on.
No, it's that system saying, not me.
I'm not so keen on that now. I know you're always looking for the silver lining, mate, but
that's it.
we've hit a roadblock.
So those are the advantages in my opinion.
Yeah, look, and I can't agree with you more. And it's interesting, I guess, again, being a Kiwi that now lives in Australia, and so we still do some banking in New Zealand, and one of the Kiwi banks that we deal with, their website is next level, and doing any internet banking with them is fantastic. Whoever's done all the UX design for that, genius. But it's interesting because their mobile app it's not bad, but it's effectively just trying to replicate what they did on the website, and it doesn't quite work. Whereas over here, the bank that we use in Australia sort of almost a little bit the opposite. Their mobile phone app is actually really, really sweet. Works well, and the website's it's okay, but compared to, like I said, the other bank in New Zealand that we use, it's like crap. But then all of that just means nothing because one of our credit card providers has just got the worst,
There you go.
crappiest. And even if you read the app reviews on all the app stores, they're like, this thing doesn't work. Shit. And ours has stopped working as well. The only way we can do it now is via the internet banking.
Oh.
They send you an SMS code every single time you click on a link to re-authenticate you. And I'm like, oh my God. So anyway,
So
I'm not going to bang on about how crappy my banking experience is. No one cares about that.
all I can say, this is all going to improve, whether by choice or the other way or not, in next few years, I would say.
So, and this, I'm going to throw a curveball at you here.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think cryptocurrencies in general are driving this? Because I just wonder if this behavior from the banks is being driven because they see and this is me just spitballing, yeah?
Yep.
They see a threat from those decentralized type, I'll just say currencies. I don't know if that's the right word to round them all up. And the potential impact that can have on their business. And we are talking about, multi-billion-dollar businesses even here in Australia, let alone globally.
Spot on.
Do you think that is driving some of this with the banks where they are, I'll say, pulling finger and actually, doing something and focusing on making life easier for their customers?
Yep. Look, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, there are two main reasons what is also pushing the banks down this path. Obviously, cryptocurrency is one of them. Whether people think they're just a fad or, whether it's a real deal and this will completely replace the bank, I think the truth lies somewhere in between of that. So,
always.
Yeah, it's always the case. I would say, yes, cryptos are not there yet, but we cannot completely ignore them because, hey, that's what I did personally. I was being given the advice to invest into Bitcoins when it was like 60 cents.
Oh, same. Yeah, I've got some coins.
I just told my wife and I said, look. And she said, like, that means you just walked away on driving a Bentley or something like that. I go, yep, literally. I could also have that, the Tesla with a number plate, Bitcoin or BTC, which I've seen driving down the road in Melbourne. But yeah, look, that's definitely one of them. And I think the cryptocurrencies will grow further for sure. No two questions about it. There will be certain level of scrutiny, certain level of not to the level of what we're seeing at the banks, but there would be some crackdown or crackdown. I don't think is the right word for it, but a little bit of adjustment done from the regulators to a certain extent.
Yeah, there'll be just more regulation.
Spot on. Yeah, and then the other big reason being all the tech giants, so like your Apples and your Googles and even your Amazons and Microsoft, not actually Microsoft, but Amazon, coming in. And so far, if you think of it, I literally walk outside my home, obviously if I don't need a driving license, with only my phone, and I can do all my shopping with Google Pay or Apple Pay. Well, what's stopping? These companies are huge. I mean, Apple, largest company on earth. Google, second or third largest company in the world.
And they're encroaching into that
correct
space.
Yep.
Yeah.
Slowly like, few years back, I know people who used to say, look, I'm not going to put any of my financial information on the phones because they can be hacked. Now I see the same people tapping their iPhones on the counters. Go, hey, what's happening here? So slowly and steadily, that mindset is changing. And don't forget, we have something called millennials in the economy now,
who don't use computers. They use phones.
Yes, and they've grown up with this thing. They don't see any reasons to use physical currencies. Even though we're talking about, just general Aussie dollars or US dollars, they still try to use it in the digital format. Not Bitcoin.
Just off their phones.
Yeah.
And no, I know. I've got one of those in the house. It always blows me away that somehow she manages to download more on her phone than like when I look at our firewall and our usage. I'm like, man. Anyway, again.
Right.
No one cares about my personal internet usage in the apartment.
I wouldn't be surprised if you're running a Splunk cluster somewhere just to analyze that kind of, creating graphs.
No, not yet.
Not yet, but I gave you the idea. Yes.
Yeah, look, I think we talk about that on another vlog actually, and we're going to have a guest along because I've just learnt about a guy who actually runs Splunk to assist with this home automation.
There you go.
Like,
I'm
my God,
on to something.
That's some next level stuff when you're doing that. So anyway, that's for a future session.
That's it.
So I think if we go back to some of the technology then, so it's cool. It's cool that all of this end user, I guess as we refer to them in our language, changes are happening. So on the back end, like, what do you think has started enabling this digital change? Let's use some marketing slang there.
Yes.
For these enterprise businesses, like, how are they starting to make this change on the back end, and how are we as IT assisting with that?
Yep. Look, the number one thing, the caveat, especially in the banking industry, they're not going to move away from things like your mainframes anytime sooner. That won't happen. The core banking is not going to move from there. They've invested billions, if not for sure, over the decades. And
over the decades that they've been running those systems. I agree.
Yeah, so that's not going to go anywhere. But what's happening is we are seeing the emergence of the newer technologies on the fringes, which is now covering that core banking platform and providing that new interface. So you'll see the technologies like your containerizations, your Kubernetes, where things will pop up, perform a function, disappear, and for the next customer.
Yeah.
So you're reusing that infrastructure, you're using that code base. Things would be updated on the fly like you normally do within the CI/CD way of working thing in the DevOps environment. Those kind of things are definitely going to work, and the banks are adopting more and more of them within every frame. It's not just the banking side of it; it's in their operations and the technology and the support side. All of them streams are actually adopting to these kind of technology. So the whole bank as a company, whole industry is going to change in next 2 to 5 years.
Massively.
Yeah.
And I think even if we use telco as an example again as well, typically they're maybe not running on mainframe, but they'll have some huge legacy system that is really, I don't know, you give it all sorts of flash names, but I guess ultimately it's a billing system, really.
Yep.
But I think elaborating on what you were talking about there, it's these enterprises getting their head around how they do leverage new architectures, talking about microservices and building those apps on top of a containerized environment.
Yep.
Kubernetes again, but we might as well just stick all of the bloody buzzwords in there. But I think you're right. Like, as soon as they start getting their head around that and they're like, oh, we don't actually need to like rip the core out. We can build something around the perimeter of this and make it useful and accessible and easier for us to iterate and drive more and more change and deliver more and betterer.
Yep.
Is that a word? I don't know.
I'll
let's just say
like
betterer.
it betterer.
Yeah.
Love those terms.
Trademark. Betterer.
Done.
That's where end users, that's where customers actually end up benefiting from a back-end technology change that none of them will understand. Hopefully none of them understand, because they'll just be as sad as you and I, bloody working in IT and thinking we know stuff.
Hey, we work in a cool industry. We
we do.
we do it in some sense. It actually, I won't swap it for anything else, because I know I'm kind of like leading a change for a lot of those companies, and in one sense, this is our contribution to the community as well, because in one way or the other, we're helping them change their life for a better word.
I agree again. And look, sort of off topic to this, but We definitely are. I'm at the moment working on a genomics. See, I can't even pronounce the word properly. What I do know is that I'm working on a system that's helping hospitals scan and get results for COVID results
There you
faster
go.
and better.
Better,
Again.
yeah.
So yeah, no, absolutely, we are privileged. That being said, if I could be Valentino Rossi, I would. But otherwise, yeah, I'd just be me.
Well, I can see you driving on your motorbike, on the streets of London.
Yeah. Good old days.
Good old days, huh?
Excellent. Oh, well, that was good, mate. I think that was a bit of a chat, probably a little bit different for us. Not as much technology on that one, probably just a bit more sort of what's going on in industry. But hopefully people found that useful. And we've got an idea for a future one now. I think we definitely need to loop back and talk about that data analytics. You mentioned Splunk there. There's a lot going on in that space. And
Yep.
like I said, I think we're really lucky to have a colleague who's actually doing some really bonkers stuff in that space that I think would be really cool to talk about and introduce to the people in our vlog in the future.
Absolutely. I'll look forward to it, mate.
Cool, buddy. Well, take care.
You too,
And I'll
mate.
see you again at the next one.
For sure. Thank you.
Cheers. See ya.